Hey, John, what was killing growth in the business in the past?
Just trying to do it all. I was trying to do sales. I was trying to do project management, service management, and lead the company, and it was just absolutely tearing us up. And we had to improve.
We'll hear how that held the company back, as well as what they did to change that here in a minute. We are talking with business owners about the messy middle growth stage, where the company has grown, but you're working harder than ever because too much still runs through you. Today, you'll hear how John is working through a better understanding of the accounting side so that growth doesn't keep pulling him back into the day to day. John owns Kentuckiana Communications. They improve communications between patients and caregivers. I'm Coach Tim Campsall. This is Self Made as a Myth. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you, Tim. Glad to be here.
Well, hey, let's start at the beginning. We know that stepping into ownership requires a bit of a leap of faith. So, what made you believe that I can do this, even though you didn't have it all figured out, John?
That's one of the things was I think watching my father, who owned a couple of businesses. The first business that he owned, they actually failed, but it did not deter him in any way, shape, or form. He simply said, I'm going to get better. And then the next business venture that he tried was even bigger, and he succeeded in that, and it really made a difference. And watching how he grew that company, also helping another individual who started a company from the ground up and asked me to be a part of that growth process, led me to kind of feel like, you know what, I believe in myself and I believe that I can make this happen. So I took that leap of faith.
And now, after the fact, what's been the biggest difference between what you expected going into it and what ownership has actually been like?
That is such a good question. So essentially, I think how maybe it ages you and hardens you a little bit, because when you go into this, when I started this, there were no guarantees. Nobody promised me anything. And I started in a simple little one room office with a folding table, folding chairs, a terrible little laptop computer. And going through that process when nobody promised you anything, and then trying to build it up a little bit at a time, and the toll that it just takes on you. Those first few years were very, very humbling because there wasn't much coming in. So that was kind of where
Yeah.
but I think just overall the effect it has on you as a person trying to make it grow.
I think the saying is something like we significantly overestimate how well the business will do in the first few years, and then underestimate how well it will do long term. So it's a normal thing of yep, things just take a little bit longer in the beginning than we necessarily want it to.
When I wrote my business plan, Tim, I expected to hit $1 million in sales sometime in the first 4 or 5 years. It took 11. Doesn't mean we weren't successful, but yeah, things change and you just have to adapt.
Yeah, absolutely. And congrats on that because only 9% of businesses ever make it past the $1 million mark. So it's a significant milestone and less than 1% ever make it to 10 million. And so that's really what this podcast is all about is what I'm calling the messy middle, right? Of that businesses who have made it to the million. So earlier, John, you shared that trying to do it all was killing growth. So take us through that. Give us a little bit more context of what was happening and then more importantly, what had to change to allow you to work through that?
Well, from my perspective, after a few years, we kind of seem to be stuck in a plateau of a certain dollar sales. And yeah, we were making a little bit of money, but we weren't really growing. I really couldn't afford to hire more people, and I needed to hire more people. You have to spend money to make money, but we were just stuck. I think what helped me the most was actually looking at my employees and saying, "Okay, look, we have to come up with a game plan, and I need to give you more responsibility and let you take on a greater leadership role." So I took one technician and I made him into my service manager. Another one became project manager. Another one took over warehousing and inventory control. Those things led to the biggest growth, honestly the best move that I could have ever made. And that was allocating or giving those people more responsibility and letting them flourish.
You mentioned a couple of words that are very indicative of this messy middle that we're talking about is plateaued or no longer growing or feeling stuck. And it's a normal thing because what it takes to get to that first million is the owner being hands on everything, right? Figuring it out, trial and error, testing and measuring, right? Getting stuff to work. But then when that happens, right, the business ends up outgrowing the owner's capacity and the current structure in the organization, and plateauing and stucking it is a natural evolution. And so congratulations on realizing where you were at and the delegating. And so when you did that, the result was then what?
Oh my goodness. All of a sudden, we started taking off. I knew that my customers really liked not only me, but my employees because they are great representatives of the company. But when I allowed these guys with new ideas and new ways of thinking, and they're younger than I am, so they're obviously a little more social media savvy and stuff like that. All of a sudden, I could just see the company just start take off a little bit, and then every year since then, we've just grown a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more to the point that a few years ago we actually bought a building. We quit renting and quit throwing our money away. We bought a building. We've been investing in new company vehicles. And so it's one of those things where I felt like not only was I holding myself back, I was holding them back.
Mm.
And allowing them to flourish has been the greatest move that I could ever make because it allowed the customer to see the trust that I had in these people and how good they were at the job. So it was one of those things where you had to adapt. And like I said, from my perspective, it was the greatest move that I could have ever made was to give them more responsibility.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. And so going back to that messy moment, messy middle moment, John, when you were doing everything and it was holding the company back, what was the personal cost to you of not letting go?
I was in a personal rut. I started to have some doubts and not letting go of I don't know if it was so much maybe the power of owning the company, but just letting others, like I said, letting others flourish and see what effect it had on the company. And it just it helped me take away that doubt, and I said to myself, you have to give these people more responsibility and let them interact with your customers, let them do the things that allows customers to see you in a different light." And so because that's why you trust these people.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I had to let go of that doubt, and I had to just let them flourish and let them do the things that they do the best. And moreover, I think that I fortunately for me, I picked the right people for the right positions.
Yeah.
The guy that took over as our service manager, our service revenue has doubled in the last few years.
That's a great.
Not because we're not doing as much service, we're on top of service more.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I've heard from folks in the past that part of the struggle of letting go is the business is your baby, right? You've created it, you've made it successful, right? You've gotten it to that level of quote unquote success. And then right, the plateauing comes and it's like, but letting go is a risk, right? Put your blood, sweat, and tears into creating this thing and letting go, it's hard.
it is. But I think by the same token, you have to establish also a plan for down the road, right? Because this is my retirement,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So whether I sell it or whether I turn it over to these folks, they need to be better prepared
Yes.
to take over or to help lead the company down the road. So it's selfish of me to continue to just hold on
Yeah.
and not let go of a little bit of that. Yeah, I don't know that I really maybe it's selfishness, I don't know, but like I said, letting go, it was such an amazing thing, and it's helped us tremendously.
You mentioned right, it being your retirement and eventually selling it either right to the employees or outside. The the single biggest thing that holds back companies from being able to be sold is that the owner is the only reason it works. So you're well on your way to setting it up for sellability by having the team be able to run the day-to-day operations for you. So awesome transition.
Yes, I agree
John,
100%.
earlier, I mentioned that not having the best grasp on the financials is the current challenge, the thing that keeps sucking you back into the day to day. So, give us some context on that. What's happening and how is it affecting you not having the grasp that you're aspiring to have?
I understand very well the basics of accounting. I understand my P&Ls, I understand my receivables and payables and my balance sheet, but I don't like accounting. I've never really cared for accounting. It seemed like from the accounting standpoint, we were hurting ourselves by not having our books in order. And so at the end of the year, I honestly, for several years, had no idea where we were.
Mm,
And we were late filing taxes. And that part was just it was taking away from the the knowledge of where we were and how successful we were, and not knowing until a third of the way or halfway through the following year,
right.
it's so stressful. It really takes its toll on you. So we took a different approach toward the end of this past year, and it seems like now we've kind of got a better grip on the accounting part of it. I knew at the end of January where we finished. I would have liked to know at the end of December, but that's okay. We're on a path to know at the end of December.
Awesome.
One
Yeah.
of my favorite things as a small company, every year we try to increase the benefits that we give to our employees.
Hmm.
But the favorite thing that I do at the end of the year is I give a Christmas bonus. And the last few years, that's been a shot in the dark
Mm,
because I knew we made money,
yeah.
but I didn't know where we were
Right.
exactly.
Right.
So I gave that money to my employees, and we give a pretty generous bonus, and I'm glad. It's my favorite thing to do. What I do for them is far outweigh whatever I gain out of this company. So allowing me to now know where we are when it comes
Yeah.
to those bonuses,
Right.
and it allows me to give a bigger bonus, and that's what I wanna do, because I really wanna reward them for good work.
Yeah. So, John, you mentioned it a little bit, but just give us a little bit more detail of what how was it affecting you personally of not having that clarity?
Stress.
Mm,
The amount of stress that I've carried for these last few years has really taken its toll on me, and to be honest with you, like, honestly, I haven't even taken vacation the last couple of years because I've been so focused on trying to get this thing resolved.
mm,
And sometimes you have to make tough decisions,
yeah.
not only in business, but in life.
Yeah.
And so we had to make some tough calls, and we had to do the things that we made it necessary for us to get our accounting in order. And that to me is just, I think, for just totally stress and how the stress took a toll. And that really, to be quite frank with you, Tim, was the biggest part for me.
Well, congratulations on making steps forward. And Marcus from the show The Prophet says that if you
I'm
don't know your
smiling now, so
yes, yeah. He says if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. So
right.
again, congratulations on making the move forward and getting to a point where you feel more comfortable about your numbers. That's awesome.
I feel like we're in good shape now.
Yeah. Way to go. Yeah. So John, what lesson do you wish that you had known or learned sooner? And what did not knowing that cost the business?
I think from the standpoint of that's a tough one. I think it did allow me to be very comfortable on a day-to-day basis in the business. And so not knowing where we were, it didn't allow me to really come in here
Yeah.
with the level of comfort in what we were doing every day. And so, like I said, personally and professionally, it was tough.
So self-made is a myth, the whole purpose of the show. So John, who are the three people that you wouldn't have achieved the successes that you have without them? And how did they help you along the way? So who are the three people and what they do to help the business?
Well, first and foremost, I would have to say my parents. I had some amazing parents, and they're no longer with us, but, the lessons in life that I learned, the tough love that I learned, I think helped build me to a point of confidence in myself, how I could achieve this, and because I think without them and without the guidance that I received as a youngster, I don't believe for a minute that I could have done this or had the confidence to do this. Another would have been a gentleman by the name of Jim Bozarth. Jim was another person that I helped build a company, and, I was with him when he started his company. I ran his healthcare department for about 6 years, and we decided to go in a different direction. But at that time, when I left to start Kentuckiana Communications, instead of being bitter with me about what decision I was making, he actually sat me down and gave me advice. and he said, "This is what you should look for." And in some ways, we were gonna be in competition, but I wasn't quite ready to be on the level of business that he it was tremendous for me to knowing that he would sit down with me and really give me that advice and watch the lessons that I learned from him as well, and watching him build his business, not only with my father, but with him as well. Another would have been my sister, Angela. My sister, Angela, fought cancer 7 times in her life, and she beat it 6. The grace and the strength that she showed through those battles was something that you just can't even describe. Um, to know that you can just keep fighting, especially when your quality of life has suffered
Mm,
so much. It was an amazing thing to watch. And in her final years, I was actually her main caregiver.
mm,
And it was just an amazing thing to watch. And it really helped build your faith a little
mm,
bit. And lastly, and certainly not the least, would be my faith, my faith in Christ.
mm.
It plays such a huge role because it's about faith. And it's not about being over religious or anything like that. It's just about faith in what you don't see, but you believe in.
Yeah.
And that faith carries me every single day. So I think that would be it.
But on the face side, the business owner journey is certainly not a linear path, right? It's a little bit of a roller coaster. So having having faith in something bigger than us is certainly beneficial along the way, isn't it?
I pray every morning. I do, and it's one of those things that I think helps guide me through. Especially tough days. Without it, I don't know that I would have taken this leap. So
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate the transparency and thank you to the folks who helped you along the way. So, John, in your journey, when you've mentioned being stuck at different times, so when you felt stuck or overwhelmed, what belief about trying to figure it out on your own held you back, and what changed when you brought in an outside perspective?
when I first started the company, this is maybe this one of the best questions you could ask, because when I started this company, the biggest doubt that I had was I a good enough technician? Had
Mm.
I relied too much on other people? And it turns out that maybe from my perspective, I was a little bit better technician than what I actually thought that I was. That's not to say that I was a great technician, but I was
Sure.
better than I thought. And
Yeah.
'cause I had, at that point, I had to figure it out. I couldn't really always rely on other people, but you still hit those points where you need somebody from the outside.
Mm.
And this happened as recently as about a week and a half ago, where I ran into a situation at a facility, and I just could not figure it out. There was no tech support for me to call on this one. So I called in somebody that I used to work with. And this person, their level of knowledge is just amazing. Individually, yeah, I would consider them to be a little arrogant at times and maybe a little difficult to deal with. But you have to you have to balance
Mm.
what helps the customer,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, the customer is relying on you to get this problem resolved.
Right.
And so I called in that individual, and that individual came in and helped fix the problem.
Mm.
And I am so grateful. I'm so grateful that I have somebody like that as a resource that I can call.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like I said, sometimes maybe you swallow a little bit of pride and make the call, but you have to do what you have to do to help the customer, because the customer is the one who relies on you the most. Actually, in a way, it helped that individual because that same facility had some systems that are not really within my purview. And so this individual, as a result, is going to actually end up getting a little bit more business. And so it helps them too. So, and that's okay. At the end of the day, my customer was helped, my customer was appreciative,
Yeah.
and everybody won.
John, what do you think it is that stops us in the beginning from reaching out to others and trying to trying to figure it out on our own versus asking for help?
I wish I could answer that question, because I, there are people who look at me and were like, "You really shouldn't make that call." And I'm like, I believe that it's at the end of the day, it's just what's in the customer's best interest.
Right.
I mean, pride, maybe it's pride. From my perspective, like I said, when I first started this, I really had some doubts about how good of a technician I was. So I
Sure.
knew at some point that I was going to have to rely on somebody else.
Yeah.
Um, I've been able to figure out a lot more than I thought I could, and I'm
Sure.
so proud of that part. And all of my technicians have been mostly trained by me.
Mm,
Now, I do get them outside training with the manufacturer and
sure.
things like that, but at
Sure.
the end of the day, we're all doing well and we're all able to fix things. So, but I don't know. I never have so much pride that I can't make that call.
Yeah. That's awesome. So overall, John, with the experiences that you've had throughout the years, what's the number one piece of advice that you'd have for a fellow business owner who's maybe earlier on in the journey than you?
If you believe in yourself, take the leap.
Mm.
Just understand that there's generally never going to be instant gratification. You're going to you're going to hit plateaus. You're going to hit areas where you get frustrated, but believe in yourself and have faith in yourself. But more than anything, you better bring a good work ethic
Mm.
because customers recognize your work ethic. They take you at your word, and your word is all built in how you perform your job and how committed you are to making sure that you get that job done.
Yeah.
And I have the same amount of commitment for a $500 job as I do a $500,000 job. But $500 job is just easier. You better, but be honest, be straightforward, and let people know where you are in the process. Because I think at the end of the day, even if you don't are not able to fix something the first time, if they know you're trying and they know that you're committed, then they'll hang with you and they'll believe in you. But you have to have faith, and you have to have a good work ethic, and you have to believe in yourself.
You mentioned that it's not necessarily an easy path in the beginning. So the business ownership certainly not for the faint of heart, right? The first few years take a lot of working hard and long and hustle and grind because there's a whole lot of things that you got to figure out and aren't easy necessarily at first because there's a lot of trial and error and getting stuff to work.
The first few years I went quite a few weeks and sometimes months without getting a paycheck
Hmm.
because paying my bills and paying my employees was the most important thing to me. When I said that it was humbling, you know. But you're right; it's not for the faint of heart. You have to be committed and bring it hard every single day. I'm in a business where service is 365 days a year, 24
Right.
hours a day, because these are life safety systems. And I tell people all the time, if you're not committed to getting a call at 2 o'clock in the morning and having to get up and sometimes drive an hour or two to get to a facility to fix something, then don't be in this business because it's those people rely on you. You
Right.
know, people's lives depend on the systems that we do.
Yeah. John, it sounds like you've been blessed with some incredible people along the way. If they were all here today, what would you want to say to them?
Thank you. I would say thank you to every single one of them. I am so appreciative of every opportunity that's been presented to me. I feel like I've earned most of those opportunities through hard work and through dedication, but those places didn't have to give me that opportunity.
Mm,
Some places, especially as a young company, and those facilities and those companies and those people that give you an opportunity and say, okay, I'm going to take a chance on this guy. He may not have $1 million company behind him, but I have a feeling that this is the right person for the job. And you try to make sure that when you go in and do that you reward their confidence in
yeah.
you with getting a good job well done. But you're still appreciative. And we do Christmas cards at the end of the year, and I make all my employees sign Christmas cards because the happy holiday emails and text to me usually get deleted. And then we make baskets for a lot of our employees with candies and goodies and chocolates and we hand deliver those because we want those customers to know how appreciative we are of the opportunity that they gave us. And sometimes those opportunities were 10 years ago,
Right.
but we still appreciate them.
Yeah.
And so from that standpoint, we try to go the extra mile all
Hmm.
the time. And so that's one of those things. We're just appreciative of the opportunities.
John, I appreciate you sharing today. Thanks for being on the show.
Tim, thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
If you're stuck in the messy middle, there's a way through it and you don't have to figure it out on your own. Our 2 week training and coaching trial helps get clarity for you in terms of what needs to change and how to make those changes. The link is in the description. If this conversation resonated, like it, comment on it, and subscribe so that you don't miss our next episode. I'll see you all next time.